Hello, Nevada County. This is David Clark Carroll from the Nevada County Tech Connection. We've got something a little different for you folks tonight. This is a series of a couple interviews I conducted with Scott Murray from Telestream and Ramona Howard from Nevada County Media, all initiated through a brief little segment from a conversation I had with Conrad Sisk from the Center for the Arts. I talked to Conrad about the center's live stream series where they put on some really phenomenal performances last year, filling the live entertainment gap quite ably. Now, one of the central challenges that any organization, band, or entity faces getting their content live on the web is delivery systems. There are free options, there are paid options, there's Zoom, but to really do it at the level that an organization like the Center for the Arts or Nevada County Media does, they needed a pro-level system. And in one of those, it's a small community with lots of tech things. Both of them wound up using Wirecast, which is produced by Telestream. And Telestream is based right here in Nevada County. They've been around for a number of years, and it was my privilege and pleasure to talk with Scott Murray from Telestream and Ramona Howard from Nevada County Media. I hope you enjoy this segment where we go down a number of rabbit holes looking at just how integrated the video, audio, production, and creation communities are here in Nevada County.
So there's a lot of options out there for how to multi-stream. What solution are you guys using? Have you used a couple different services over this period, or have you had good luck sticking with one? Because something I've played around with for sure. I've used both Caster and Restream and Streamlabs, and there's always a downside no matter what you're using. How did it go for you guys?
So we haven't had to use a third-party service like that, fortunately, because we have Wirecast software. So our Telestream software will send to multiple sources, and it'll send to as I believe it'll send to as many outputs as you want it to, but it does caution you that if you go over 4, it starts running out of processing power. So we typically since we went over to doing ticketed shows, now we only go to 2 sources and a record, and that's like well within the capability of the bandwidth and also of the the CPU and the video processing card on the the computer, the streaming device itself. I've talked to some musicians who have used Restream, and it seems like it's like works when it works, and it can be a headache otherwise. But we haven't. For us, everything happens within that Wirecast Pro software.
And that's just so cool too, because Telestream is a local company. How did you guys come to be using their gear? Was that just what you had on hand? Was it a conscious choice to support local? How did the center and Telestream come together there?
Yeah, well, the Telestream's been a longtime sponsor of WorldFest and of center events. So when we started doing this, Telestream actually donated that computer and a year of the software coverage to us, which was fantastic. I mean, I don't know. It is expensive, I believe. I don't know what it retails for, but it was a very generous and helpful donation. Because they're a local company and they're right here, and there are a lot of people that work there that are interested in the center, they're also like fantastic tech support. Like, I think I get the impression that they have really good tech support anyway, but it's nice to be able to call them and know that you're calling someone up the street and, oh yeah, our one of our primary Wirecast techs, his name is Jim, so it'll be like, oh yeah, it's Jim at the center, and like it's nice that a international business has that kind of connection to what we're doing here.
Super cool. I mean, that takes a lot of the technical challenge out of it. Because for a lot of, and again, I think this is why a musician like Kyle was so appreciative of coming in, doing the performance, having everything taken care of. Because if you're doing it at home, you're trying to do all of this yourself, and maybe your laptop battery dies. Whoops. Maybe Restream doesn't want to work. Maybe Facebook doesn't want to work. So the fact that you have the ability, thanks to local companies, to just go straight to each source is really valuable, because it's not going to matter on YouTube if Facebook goes down. It's not going to matter on YouTube if Facebook goes down. So that's just awesome.
For this segment, I'll be talking with Scott Murray. Scott very graciously agreed to talk to me about how the center got the Wirecast system set up and what the relationship was. And we wound up talking about a whole lot more stuff as well. Hope you enjoy. I think it was just so cool that I'm talking to the Center for the Arts, Conrad Sisk. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to find common ground because I do a lot of live streaming myself. And I'm like, what server are you using? Are you using Restream? Are you using Caster? He's like, oh, we're using Wirecast from Telestream. So that's kind of what led to me tracking you down. And
yeah, it's great. It's used by I don't know, tens of thousands of people around the world all the time. I mean, the latest thing with COVID, Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, was doing a daily briefing on COVID. They use Wirecast, and the New York Yankees and every Major League Baseball, football team. The Yankees were doing streaming batting practice. So they were doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and they're using Wirecast to stream to Facebook before the games. And then they would switch to their regular feed. And so they're using Wirecast for all the production. The Fox Sports during the World Cup was using Wirecast for their wrap-up show. So they would do all their normal broadcast. And then at the end of the night, they would do a wrap-up show, and they were using Wirecast to produce and stream that out to the constituents around the world. I mean, the list just, churches all over the place go and use it. I mean, I can't tell you how many places I've been to that Wirecast is just used. You can go just about anywhere and people know. In fact, some people think it's the company. They think it's the Wirecast company.
Very cool. So this is something that's, it's not just something some little backwoods startup in Nevada County is loaning to the center. It's something used all around the world.
Yeah. If you go to our Wirecast webpage and look at some of the customers, I mean, it's all over the place. Everybody, I mean, Google uses it and Facebook uses it, and it's just.
Telestream's, you guys have been supporters and involved in some way with the center for a number of years, correct?
Yeah. We've been real friendly, and we're also really friendly with the Nevada County. I don't know what it's called now. What's that new facility up at the Whispering Pines?
The Nevada County Media?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, no, they've got some cool gear going on there right now too.
Yeah, they have Wirecast gear inside that one now too, to be able to do live streaming. In fact, our Wirecast product manager, Lynn Elliott, I think she's on the board for that media center.
It's the beauty of Nevada County. It's too small for everything not to be connected. I mean, the center could have been muddling through like so many of us using Restream and the various other services. And
right.
No, they got the hand up from the local company, and they were able to deliver a superior product.
I know. Well, we're really fortunate because of the legacy of Grass Valley Group. Because if you go back to the history of Grass Valley Group, and I don't know if you're familiar with the whole video history of the area.
It's pretty extensive. I don't know all the ins and outs, but
well, I moved up here. I moved up here in 1984, and I joined Grass Valley Group, and so I've actually been in and out of Grass Valley Group 3 times, through a variety of acquisitions and mergers. And it's like, I just left and went over to this company, and they just got bought, and then they got merged back. It's like, that's happened. But in 1959, Grass Valley Group, a guy named Doc Hare, formed Grass Valley Group here. He was a audio engineer and escaped the Bay Area and came up here. And I forget which customer, it might have been like ABC. They called him up and said, "Hey, can you make a sync generator?" This is during the transition from black and white to color. And he goes, "Sure, no problem." Hangs up the phone, talks to his buddy and says, "What's a sync generator?" So they did some research and they breadboarded a circuit and they showed a prototype in like a week. And they said, "Oh, great. I want 40 of those." So they made 40 of them and they gave them to him. And they called back a little bit later and, "Hey, can you make a DA?" He goes, "Sure, we can make a DA." Hangs up the phone, says his buddy, "What's a DA?" He's like, "Well, okay." So they figure it out. And a week later they show a prototype and, and it's like, and it just grew from being embedded from a grassroots. And then it grew to there were 1,500 people employed by Grass Valley Group back in the 80s.
Wow.
1,500.
That's a significant part of the town's economic base right there.
Oh yeah, totally. And then as competition came in, Sony saw it. They wanted, though there was a lot of competition and turmoil and stuff. And so the company split apart and there were some divestitures and other companies, startups. And, we became known as the video Silicon Valley for a long time. And so at one point I think there were over 28, 20, 25, 28 companies in the area that had some connection to Grass Valley Group. Now there's less now. Really, the two companies that are the dominant ones are us, Telestream, and AJA. We're really the two main companies, but there's some other smaller consulting companies. And there are some other companies that formed a base up here just to tap into the talent pool that has come up in this area as well. So it's been a really wild journey for the last 35 years or so that I've been, or longer than that now, 38 years. Yeah.
That's just really cool. I hadn't really heard all of that at Grass Valley Group history. I didn't realize how entrenched and embedded it is. Really cool to see that legacy continues, that there's cutting edge video work being done right here in Nevada County by you guys, by AJA. And have you managed to get out to the new Nevada County media facility since they've been doing all the overhauls at all? Or
yeah, they had an open house. Oh, this must have been, was it pre-COVID? Yeah, it was pre-COVID, come to think of it. So it was over a year ago they had an open house.
So you haven't seen it with doors or anything?
No.
Yeah,
I'd like to, all I saw was kind of raw rooms. They didn't have much equipment in there. Their stage was not built and sound stage and stuff like that. So it was just raw and I haven't been back since.
We got to do a video tour with them for a TechTonic episode last summer. It was our first live streamed one actually. And it was cool to see what they were doing there. It was kind of that in-between stage where they were filling rooms up with stuff, but the rooms didn't have doors. The hallway was just, bare concrete. So looking forward to seeing how that continues to develop and grow and use local suppliers for a lot of the gear they're using.
Yeah. That's great.
Circle back for a minute to talk a little bit. So you mentioned Boris Johnson used Wirecast to brief Great Britain on COVID. The Yankees were using it for, what was that, batting practice?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a pretty wide range of variety of customers. What other kind of main places do you see it being used besides, places as far-flung as that?
Well, in the corporate world, we use Wirecast ourselves. So we just did a press conference last week on Wednesday where we had like 25 to 30 journalists around the world, and we streamed it live using Wirecast. So that was one. That's a very common use case for people to do live production in the corporate world for product introductions like what we did, or for training videos, especially in the time of COVID when you don't have the ability to go on site, but you still need to do some training, so you can use it for that. So corporate uses it in that case. Education, we had a real spike in education as well. So people are doing live streaming for the education world. They want to do something a little higher production than just a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. We kind of segment the market into corporate, education, house of worship, and events. Those are kind of like the four main markets. Probably 20 to 25% per. Within there's some other niches as well. But so the corporate world is using any sort of corporate communications. The house of worship world is streaming their church services, and you can actually look at our analytics and see on the weekend we have a big blip on Sundays, big blip going on Sundays. Education is about giving lectures, also teaching people how to do live production. So Wirecast is used inside some facilities for teaching children, on high school students, how to do it. And then in the events market, anytime there's some sort of an event like the Center for the Arts, I would consider them to be an event production. If you think of like a trade show or an event production, they'll stream the keynotes or stream the breakout sessions. Those are all produced with Wirecast as well. So those are the kind of the four main markets we do.
Very cool. Was there much house of worship customer base before COVID, or is that really kind of transitioned over?
No. It's always been very strong segment for us. It's really been one of the four main segments that we've identified. We've been doing it for years. And because when customers started satellite campuses, so for example, when mega churches started, they started to have satellite campuses, but they also want to be able to stream the sermon to rooms where maybe the youth are at, or maybe in the children's area. So they will live stream those to all the different destinations. So it's been a really strong place for positioning the product as well.
Cool. And wouldn't have been something that would have necessarily crossed my mind as a heavy user of live streaming technology, but yeah. Very, very cool side of the business there. I don't want to take up too much more of your time here, but really, really wanted to just kind of get more of the story, because it was just so cool to find out that the way the center was doing it wasn't some gear they bought from LA, wasn't something, shipped over. It was right here in Nevada County.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's fun to be a part of a company that's worldwide and renowned, but also we eat our own dog food. We use it ourselves. And then the donations that we give to our local community places, we use it all. We're really happy to do that as well. We like to give back. Our CEO, Dan Castles, is of course very embedded with the community, and is on the hospital board and other areas. And so he's very active in making sure the community thrives. And that's a mindset that permeates our being, so to speak, even though we're a multinational company now with over 600 employees around the world. We're still really hometown folk who love being local and helping out the local area.
Thanks for helping to fill the gap this last year with all of our hunger for live music. And hopefully we'll be able to get back out there and dance.
Which one have you caught that you love?
Achilles Wheel was great.
Okay.
Good friends with those guys, and it was cool to see them do that.
Yeah, they're a great band. Great guys.
I really dug Kyle Ledson too. He's a pillar of the local bluegrass community, young prodigy, came up with Kids on Bluegrass, the California Bluegrass Association. He came out there solo, him as a guitar and his mandolin. and just crushed it.
Mm.
Managed to get a kind of little testimonial from him about his experience, and he just waxed effusive about how great everything sounded and looked, and he's watching the video afterwards and like, wow, it looks really high quality, and he was really proud of the product he was able to help create. So thanks for making that possible.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, we love it. We just, and like I said, it takes from the top down. We really care about our community. We care about our people. We care about our families. We're just a good company, the good solid, and it takes the whole persona is driven from our CEO Dan, who's 20 founded the company 23 years ago with two other guys. So all three of the founders are still with Telestream.
That's impressive. That's
yeah, isn't it?
I feel that's a fairly unique thing in the corporate world.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Scott. Well, I'll let you get going here, but thanks so much for joining me. For this segment, I sat down with Ramona Howard, and I learned an awful lot of cool things. For example, did you know that Nevada County is partly to blame for 56K modems? Now, that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, but either way, put us on the map. So, first off, thanks for taking a little bit of time to talk about this today. Now, a couple months back, I was talking to Conrad Sisk from the Center for the Arts, and he mentioned that they use Wirecast for their live streaming, and I thought that was cool. So I tracked down the guys from Telestream, and I talked to Scott Murray, and we had a real cool conversation about how widespread that technology is. And then at some point in there, he mentioned that Nevada County Media also uses Wirecast, and I've seen you share on social media pictures of other local companies' gear. So I guess I'd love to start with, how did you choose to use this gear? Was it kind of what was at hand? Was it donated? How did you and Wirecast cross paths?
We've been using Wirecast for, well, it was they were using it a little prior to me coming on, so easily 4 years, and we actually have 5 systems that we have integrated in at different locations. So all of our government jurisdictions, we've upgraded all of their systems to Wirecast. We have 2 systems internally that we use. So I would say we're their biggest Nevada County customer. And the reason that I chose to go with Wirecast is a couple of reasons. One is to support our local vendors. I mean, you'd have to go all the way back to the creation of the Grass Valley Group and all of that stuff, but this all came out of there. So it's a pretty complex product that I knew would give us room to grow, and it's supported by people who know what they're doing. I mean, having them right here is pretty darn convenient. So supporting our local was really important to me. And then the reason we have 5 of them is because it was important that I get all of the jurisdictions, everybody on the same equipment, so that our team can jump from one to the other or whatever. It has made support so much easier.
That was something that Conrad mentioned, was anytime they were having trouble, you call up and it's like, hey, we're right down the street. So very cool. When you came in 4 years ago, you said that there was some Wirecast gear. So part of what you did was you chose to have that be the standard that you're using in all of the places. That's a testament to how powerful that gear is then. Now, that's just awesome that you guys are able to support a local vendor doing that. You also use some other local gear. I believe AJA is something
Yeah,
else you use.
yeah, we're heavily integrated in, like I said, all of our stuff that we do with both Telestream and AJA gear. I would like to say that we've purchased all of our Telestream gear. If we have the funding to do it, we do it. We're not going out and getting a handout for everything. So, yeah, we've purchased 5 systems from them. Um, the AJA stuff, I have a long history with the guys over at AJA. So when I first came on, the list was long of what I needed, and they kindly donated a fairly significant amount of equipment to us to allow us to build out our facility to bring us up to speed, up to par with what a real production studio should have. And then since then, we've made purchases. So we purchase everything that we do now, everything from cameras to converters to routers to. I mean, I think we have a little bit of everything they have in their lineup somewhere in the mix. And again, they're right here locally. My son happens to work over there, so they're just a phone call away to get an answer or a resolution to a problem taken care of.
Was there a fair bit of their gear in use at the Tech Hub location, or was that part of scaling up at the new spot?
No.
Oh, cool. What other do you guys use other gear from other local companies that haven't made it onto my list yet?
Not that I can think of. Probably little bits and pieces, but nothing to speak of. We only need a certain amount of equipment to do things. It's not like, because there's other switcher companies here in town, obviously Grass Valley Group. It's not like I need 2 different kinds of switchers. It's, converters and yada yada. But we do obviously use other gear. Those 2 companies don't make everything.
It sounds like they make almost everything, if not quite.
AJA has filled a significant gap. I mean, everything from our video routers to we have a couple of Key Pros, which are a recorder player system. We have some FS units, which is some converter, big rack mount converter. I mean, they are kind of like an all-in-one tool. Lots of various converters. I think if there's anything else in there. Oh, cameras. So, yeah.
A little bit of everything there.
And they're a good company. I mean, both of these guys are a good company.
It's a small community with a lot of tech.
Yeah, more so than people know. I mean, one of the projects that we've been working on here is we've been working on this for 4 years, and it's finally coming to fruition, is a video tech museum. So we just almost finished renovating 2,000 square feet space to house most of the video history. And we're really fortunate because we just get to move over Grass Valley's museum, and then we get to add on to it. But a lot of people that live here are not even aware of the significance that our community has had on the video, film, and television world. So hopefully June, July-ish, somewhere in there, we'll have a museum coming together. And that's pretty exciting.
The Grass Valley Group heritage it keeps on popping up. I talked to Liam Ellerby from the Curious Forge a couple nights ago, and they're in part of that old facility, and just seeing some of the pictures of the makerspace makes you realize just how massive an undertaking the Grass Valley Group was.
It was pretty dang massive.
It's this is not a small little warehouse in the backwoods. This was a world-class production facility.
I mean, the facility over at Providence Mine. I mean, I don't know how many buildings that was, but I mean, it was a pretty significant business for here, but it was a pretty significant business for the world. And that's what I think people beyond our community, or even people in our community, do not realize that the impact that the tech here made on the world is pretty huge. And companies continue to evolve out of that from way back then. And it's changed. It's more, like Telestream. I mean, I don't know how many locations they have, but they have more than one. And it's not all in one location like it was, back in the Grass Valley group days. So yeah, watch for information on the museum. It's a pretty significant thing. And people just kept coming out of the woodwork that I didn't even know about. And I was like, oh, they did that up here. I mean, did you know that, chase you down another rabbit hole. Did you know that Nevada County was the #1 modem manufacturer developer in the world?
Never would have thought.
56K modem was developed right here in Nevada County, right over there, right on Gold Flat. Used to be the old TDK building. I was like, I didn't know that. They're like, yeah, they had more modem developers here in Nevada County than anywhere in the world.
Oh.
It's crazy. I mean, big whoop. It's a 56K modem. I mean, that'd be very painful today.
At the same time, I was pretty young, but I remember when that upgrade came out, and it made a lot of stuff possible.
Going
from what was the previous 14 something?
I don't know.
That was groundbreaking, and it's mind blowing to hear that it was right in Nevada County. That
I know. And I'd heard that, but it kind of goes in one ear and out the other, and then it's like, oh, well, wait a minute, that is pretty significant.
I mean, it's seems like small potatoes now that we're talking about 1 gigabit symmetrical connection speed, but it's every step forward is a step forward, and
right.
Not everyone right now has 1 gig symmetrical. Most folks don't. And in fact, I bet there's 1 or 2 people out there in Nevada County who are still using modems. They're a little bit faster than 56K nowadays, but you go way up Bloomfield, there's got to be someone dialing in on a phone line still.
Oh, there has to be. I mean, heck, there's people in our county that don't even have computers, that don't use computers, so it doesn't surprise me. We have a pretty broad spectrum of people that live here.
Well, that was a pretty cool rabbit hole you took me down. Do you have any others?
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a ton. You get these guys together and start talking, and stuff just starts coming out that it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. I mean, I am hoping that our Atari R&D was here, so you did not know. Okay,
no.
Well, yeah, Atari R&D was right here in Nevada County. It was over in the Litton building. And so
this is all a preview of some of the stuff that's going to be in
yeah, we're going to have a large amount of stuff in the museum, and it's not all technology. It's specific to video tech, which does go into gaming and all of that other stuff, but it's enough to, it's significant enough to gain the interest of video engineers, any video geek out there worldwide. So the recognition that we're starting to see, and we don't even have it built yet, it's going to be pretty exciting.
Awesome.
And we have, like I said, there was a good portion of these people that are still here, and we're trying to make sure that we record as much of their stories and the history and all the stories that nobody else knows, as long as we have them, because everybody's getting up there in age. So.
Now, you've had a pretty illustrious career in video and assorted related fields there. Had you been using Grass Valley Group gear in that earlier phase of your career?
No, because we were a developer. We didn't. I mean, we developed our own products. We didn't use their product. So our closest tie was we used AJ IO boards in our products to do other things. And I mean, we all knew who each other were, and we traveled in the same circle, but we did different things. So, yeah.
Well, that's still you guys using something made locally when you were down in Southern California, which is it just keeps on connecting.
Yeah, we ran across AJ, and it was like the late, like 97, 98, 99, somewhere in that window. And it was prior to HD video even being a thing. Digital video really wasn't a big thing yet. And AJ at the time made a product called a still store board. And it was basically designed to throw a individual still up on a screen. It was used in the broadcast industry. So it would throw an individual graphic up on the screen. And we wrote drivers and some code to trick that board into displaying 30 frames a second up on the screen. So we showed digital video prior to them coming out with an actual digital video board, which was only a matter of like 6 months later. And at the time, those boards were easily $10,000. So it was a pretty hefty field to be in. The equipment was not cheap. And then it just kind of skyrocketed from there. Then Apple got in the game and things started changing. So,
well, super cool. I don't want to take up too much more of your time here today because I'm trying to just get a few excerpts to piece together with all the other people. But thanks so much for taking the time to talk.
Oh, you're very welcome. I like talking tech.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I had a great deal of fun talking to these fine folks and putting this together. And I hope you enjoyed watching it almost as much as I had making it.